Sign out front. Then you have a sign on the bills.
I don't see Jersey Mike's in here. Good evening. Welcome to the Town of Cicero Planning Board meeting. Would you please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Mr. Snyder, would you lead us off?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. At this point, we will approve the minutes from the June 7th meeting. Any questions or comments from the board? Do we have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Do we have a second? Second. Mr. Duval,
Yes.
Mr. Abbey. Yes. Mr. Snyder,
Abstain, I was absent.
Mr. Bloss,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Minutes have been approved. Now we'll open the meeting to public comment. If there's anybody here that would like to address the board on any active application, you may do so now. Given nobody's approach, we'll close the public input and move on to the first agenda item, and this is for a sketch plan review. This is for the property at 7901, 7915 Brewerton Road, a proposed Dave's Hot Chicken. The applicant here. Please come on up. State your name and give us a rundown on what you're looking to do, please.
Jonathan Traeger. We're looking to build a Dave's Hot Chicken in the former AT&T at 7915 Brewerton Road.
Steve, is that mic on?
Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's on. You just gotta, let me just get it a little closer to you. There you go.
So this is an existing structure.
Correct.
Steve, we're looking at the signage
Yeah.
tonight.
Yeah, we brought this in due to the changes to the facade, increased occupancy of the space. And get the building changes looked at and reviewed, as well as the adequacy of the available parking spaces.
You want to review the interior, what's happening, what the changes are for the board and
Essentially, we're building out as a restaurant. I know there was some questions in regards to just the parking spaces meeting code, which it does. Up in the dialogue box up on top there. It has the code spelled out as far as formula, number of parking spots per square footage of retail for a restaurant.
how many spots total are there? Not sure.
I'm not sure. I would have to check. 140 and 75 are required.
140 spots
Correct.
for just your site?
No, for the entire parking lot, there's 140
Okay.
parking spaces and then 75 required for the plaza.
Mark, have you had a chance to review this?
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to look at it in detail.
Okay.
Yeah, looking at I looked at it briefly. I mean, the restaurant, I mean, there's really two on the site at this point. You've got the Jersey Mike's. And this would be the proposed chicken. Dave's Hot Chicken. Between the two of them, they're saying 9 spaces. So that seems a bit light, particularly since I think that Dave's Hot Chicken is proposing, I think somewhere on the order of 15 to 20 tables inside. Is that correct? You know, how many there are?
We have a total, I believe, of 54 seats, but
Yeah, so.
Yeah. I think there's a plan in there that proposes an occupancy of approximately 89.
Yeah, so, so that seems a bit light, but having said that, again, they've got an extra 65 spaces or something here above what they say they need, so. So I'd like to take a closer look at that and, check their, what they say there is required, make sure everything, seems to be reasonable, so, we'll definitely take a look at that.
And do you have a picture of the sign?
Yeah, so I guess here's their example signage. You can kind of see the neon sign. That's the example of what they're going to do. Right now, what they've proposed to do is they've proposed a sign on two facades, one facing Route 11, another into the plaza, and then they're also having a sign on the shared plaza sign. And, so here's kind of the exterior elevations. I do believe, yeah, okay, so here we go, yep. So there's the proposed sign in the plaza, freestanding sign, and then they have some details here of the facade that they're proposing.
So that sign is different than the first sign we looked at. Is that what you're looking to do?
Yes, correct. The first sign is just an example of the sign at one of our other locations.
But you want the second one?
Correct.
All right. Anything else at this point?
No.
We'll open up the questions. Mr. Duval?
So you're looking to do the second one. The one that's kind of stark in comparison to,
Correct.
Okay. It really, really stands out. So that's the big change then.
Well, we're squaring off the existing pylon, so we're not changing the height of it. But we're essentially squaring it off.
And are you gonna occupy one storefront or two or?
Well, one storefront, but there's quite a bit of linear footage, so.
Within the one?
Correct.
Okay. So you're talking about 3 signs then altogether?
A pylon and then essentially, two face lines on the fascia.
Do we have did you submit a elevation or a picture showing the existing?
We did. So I dropped off.
Because this is sticking up quite a bit.
No. So I dropped off actually at the town. So you guys-
Everything you have is what's, for the site plan is included in this,
Correct. So you guys should have large format prints of this as well.
Well, they didn't get the building set.
They didn't get the
plans, okay?
building
No,
set.
they got the floor plan set, and then the information you provided us with the dimensions
Okay,
on the facade, so they're right there.
perfect. So essentially, I mean, we're not going any higher than the existing. We're just squaring it off. So the pinnacle or the top of it, we're just squaring off on the building. And then we're mimicking it on the side.
I'm good. Yeah.
Mr. Abbey?
To do with that, facade or facade, as it is, that matches the other, parts of the plaza. And personally, I'd like to see that with the, continuity of the whole plaza staying in with that rather than just a large rectangle at the end there.
And I guess I'd point out that this is, I think, what faces Route 11 right now,
Right.
and this is proposed. So you're squaring it off, but
And so the part facing the parking lot,
I mean, essentially you see a makeup air unit, a fan, HVAC unit. So aesthetically from the road, it's not, it's not aesthetically pleasing. So hopefully we're
From every other angle it is. From the road.
correct. Essentially Jersey Mike's did the same thing as they raised the facade, they knocked down the pinnacle and then they raised it up and then they changed the color of the background.
No, Steve's saying no.
No,
They put their sign on the existing facade. There was no changes to the parapet when they did that.
Correct.
I guess I just also think the board needs to answer a base question as to whether you need a sign facing Route 11 when you've got one on the pylon and you have one on the plaza. I mean, that's what all the other
Because there's no sign there. at the
things there,
present.
and there's currently not a sign facing Route 11. So is the sign, the other thing, I guess, that someone kind of asked, I guess, is it this? I mean, does it have this type of lighting? I mean, is that what you're trying to represent in with this?
Correct. So there should be again, a second. Sign that-
So that's this right here.
Correct,
That's right there.
So
So this really is going to look, that particular part of the sign is going to look like.
correct.
So the letters are backlit? Interior?
I'm sorry.
And it looks like neon really. Or stuff like that.
What you have there, the letters themselves are lit,
Correct.
interior lit.
Yes.
I'm also curious, for example, right across the road, what distinguishes your business from, say, KFC?
What's the differentiation or?
Yeah. What's your specialty?
So we serve chicken, fries, milkshakes. Dave's Hot Chicken right now is the fastest growing concept in the world. It's backed by Samuel L. Jackson, Drake, Michael Strahan. It's it's a very up and coming concept. So it's a very popular, it's the most Instagram restaurant in the world right now.
Yeah, because within a quarter mile, this would make 4 chicken businesses.
Correct. Correct.
Okay. That's all for now. Thank you.
I'm not an architect, but in a past life, I hired a lot of architects. And I believe if you look at this plaza as an architect would, they would say, why would we change the makeup of the parapet for you with a big monster square Dave's Hot Chicken as opposed to what's there now? And I went by there today to make sure what I was going to say is right. A lot less money gets spent to take and refinish that triangle shaped piece and put your sign up there than to change what's there and then have your store look different than every other represent that's in the plaza. So right off the bat, I would say that I don't see how, at least I certainly wouldn't approve the big square sign that you're talking about. What happens around the corner, whether you have one looking at Route 11 or not. I don't know, it depends on how you handle that, but I certainly would not be for the sign that you're currently proposing.
I will say that Dave's Hot Chicken approved the site based on the landlord, Pat Donegan, approving this and entering into the lease. So if we don't get the signage, Dave's Hot Chicken won't approve the site. We won't be able to build.
Who won't sign?
The corporate, the franchisor.
In other words, Dave's Hot Chicken is saying it's gotta look like this or no?
No, or no.
Well, it was up to me. I guess it'd be a no.
So,
I'm done.
What's up?
No
What?
further questions.
The sign's not acceptable to me either, so I mean, based on what you're telling us, if you want to just stop now, we can. If they don't want to be in Cicero because they're not getting, This sign-
I'm not corporate. It was just entered into the lease with the landlord based on approval of the.
Can I ask you a question?
Please.
Where is this one?
That's in Amsterdam, New York.
Okay, because it looks like whoever, because I'm sure everybody has to go through the same process like we're doing here. So at some point, somebody probably said the same thing to whoever was presenting this Dave's Hot Chicken. Because if you look, it's all cohesive with the rest of the site. So we aren't the only ones saying this. So this won't be the first time that corporate has heard this, because even your other example, it all looks cohesive. So if that's why we keep referring to this one, because I think we're all kind of saying like, well, this one looks good, you know? So when you're looking at that site, it just doesn't make sense to all of a sudden update and remodel and totally change one of them. But what you're saying is that Dave's Hot Chicken is going to not like that. But what I'm saying is it's probably not the first time they've heard it. So, I mean, that's just my take on it, because this one looks like it's all cohesive with it, which is exactly what we're saying we want to see.
I
Most
agree.
definitely. And that's why, and again, I'm the franchisee,
Sure.
not corporate. That's why they put into our lease that this was a contingency based on the site. So.
But
as
you
far
don't
as-
know whether if you went back to corporate and said, we want it to look like what the others are, except your name is still there. Are you saying you know for a fact they will not approve the lease with a different sign than what's there?
I'm 99.9% sure. I mean, prior to coming in.
I'm not sure that matters to me, though.
Yeah, yeah.
Doesn't matter to me.
So essentially, if we raised up both sides and created the ephes look similar to that picture, would that be acceptable?
Yes.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
So
No,
eliminate.
I'm
I-
saying
yeah.
that the triangular shaped piece that's there in front of every other building, every other store is what you should be living with, and your name should be within that triangle.
As soon as you raise it up, it's gonna not look like the rest. So if you look at this picture, it looks like the rest. So that's what we're saying. So as soon as you raise up both sides and change it in that way, it's gonna not look cohesive with the rest of the plaza.
So, yeah, to answer your question. Yeah, most likely 100% that they won't approve it.
But you see in that picture, it looks more like a billboard.
That was my thought too.
It's certainly out of whack.
Is the person who's leasing this, maybe he needs to be brought to the table as well? Okay,
So this is, I mean, we're developing 25, or I'm developing 25 Dave's Hot Chickens. I've developed over 50 restaurants. It's the first time I've had to go before a zoning board for sign change or exterior ephes or fascia.
Well, if you were in a different spot, many spots within our town, your building would be adjacent to something that in fact is flat, doesn't have the continuity that we have in this plaza. So
Does anyone have I mean, so the Jersey Mike's and the Red Wing Sports, it's leveled off and flat. They removed, if you look at the original plans, the tear pit, just like we're doing. And this is why we.
Mark, can you pull up the street view?
Yeah, so the other end of the building, it is squared off. That's been like that for a very long.
where the shoe store is and stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But it matches in color, it matches in material.
So with that said, I mean, I'm pretty sure we could get ephes on there, match it in material and so forth, and then
like Jersey Mike.
exactly.
Well, there you go. Metro Mattress is the same.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And have the sign look more like the other example.
If it looks like the shoe store, then both ends of the plaza would be the same.
Sir, are you part of the applicant? You can come up and talk if you're with the applicant. But not from back there.
I can't remember. I drove by this, but is it Jersey Mike's also lifted up on the other side? Did they also lift it up around the corner like what he wants?
It occupies that space there. They just put
Right,
their
but
sign
like
on.
around the corner, is
Oh,
it
no.
also lifted like what he wants to do?
Oh,
Do you know what I mean?
So I think what we were saying is we're gonna want it to look similar to the
Okay.
other facades. Get rid of the black background, get the sign to look like the one in Schenectady or wherever it is. Because those aren't the two same signs, they're different.
No, most definitely
the letter.
that,
So-
yeah. that was Benderson Plaza existing, so.
Get it looking like this and have it work within the confines of that building.
So are we okay to bring it up to the parapet as they did over in Jersey Mike's? And square it off?
I'd say
We'll
yes.
create the same ephes top, and then we'd like to extend it. I mean, the side, again, it's, if you look at it, I don't know if you can pull up from the side, the road, but you see HVAC, you see, it's not a clean look from the roadside. So we would just
Yeah.
square off everything.
Yeah, and it's like a 45 at the road. I don't have a problem with the sign on both sides, on both corners.
But if they come all the way up to that peak across here, I mean, that's a.
That makes it very big.
Yeah, the other thing I'd point out, looking at the plans that were presented from the original parapet facade that's
Mark,
there,
I think
it
here.
indicates it's about 18 feet, 8 inches from
mean, if
from
they
the,
square
from the
that
soffit up.
that, Mark,
He's planning it
They
like,
square this off, see this?
Mhm.
That's really, really.
No,
high.
I- I'd say
know it's
square it
the
off.
same over there.
I'd say square it off here.
well,
but
what's
if they
being
square it
proposed.
Here, then you want them to come down here lower.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I think we'd have to see it. No matter what, right?
Yeah. You can't have the letters up just on this piece.
Well, but again, if their intent would be to bring this out and square it off here.
No, and I'm
Okay.
saying, no, square it off here.
So you want to square it off down below.
Yeah.
You don't
Then
want them,
then
you
it
don't
would
want
be
them coming
lower
up
than
here.
every other.
Well, it's a peak there.
So go ahead.
Well, I think what they're getting at is you're
Can
making.
you
a huge-
provide your name, please?
I'm Pat, Jeruso. I do building for him. I think what you're getting at, this block is too large for the whole plaza if you look at it. Yeah, there we go. We can see, well, the Jersey Mike is the same height as the peak.
The Jersey, yeah, it's,
But what I was gonna get, if we did raise up the gable to the peaks, to the peak on the one end. The other side, you could just come up to the side of the gables if we had to.
so if you look at the Jersey Mike's though, the pinnacle, it's at 50 feet and it's on both sides.
It
It's-
is the
it-
same. height,
If you look at the end from the bank, they're doing identical. So this was suggested by Pat Donegan as well, because we were essentially bookending the plaza. If you look at the Jersey Mike's side, we were essentially doing the exact same thing on our side.
Yeah, I think if you took the gable out, it'd be too low for the whole plaza. It would look odd. Because then it would be flat, it'd be flat, gable, flat, and then the other end is higher. So it matches the gable height. Your point at the gable, if you look at the far end, the box is actually the same height as the gable, which is eased to the eye.
Same height as the gable next to it, but it's not as high as the main gable. For example, it's over the real estate place.
Okay,
So if you go back to the Jersey Mike's again, we're doing the identical to that we were just changing the aesthetics, the finishes with a metal finish. So we could do exactly what we would do on the Jersey Mike side. We'll create the ethos.
I
We'll
think you
create,
need to keep the colors consistent with the palette that you've got running around here. I mean, I don't think you can do the black with the red trim.
No,
No.
black's gonna go away.
that's right. So essentially, if we could build it up, just like the Jersey Mike's, we would do this side. We would create the, both sides, and then we would create the ethos just like the Jersey Mike side, and we would keep the consistent, the top. And so forth. We would have it created the same.
Yeah, I'd say put that on paper for us.
And you'd get rid of the black.
No,
So-
no, most definitely. So we would do the exact same thing as on the Jersey Mike side.
I think what he's saying now, I'm not 100%, but where the blue dot is for the AT&T sign, that'll be your Dave's Hot Chicken. And what I gather from you folks is you don't want the black so evasive. You just don't want it because it ruins the whole tan of the plaza, where the other end is tans and whites, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So we.
Now I'll ask you this though, did you see how he has a red trim It's a very unique thing with Dave's. That's too much too. Okay, but you gotta ask to, no, right? They have the grounds, yeah. That one, that was an
That's,
that was an
those are my
existing
stores too.
building too,
So,
right?
so,
That one's
yeah.
good.
That was the first store, I believe, right?
Good job with this one.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
That fits a lot better than the other.
So I guess what you need to do is come in with something that's, basically mirroring this. Right? Show us where your sign's gonna go, give us the color palette of what you're gonna be using. And then again, I just would ask the board to, consider the Route 11 side and what direction to give them on that side.
What do you mean?
Well,
Other.
again,
Heading
you want
side.
them to continue that, increased parapet height all the way around on the Route 11 side where it doesn't currently exist.
Grab the aerial, Mark.
What's that?
Grab it, go to an aerial.
Aerial?
Yes, please. See the way this is, it doesn't have it's not directly facing Route 11. That's why I really don't have a problem if there was a sign on both corners, because then it'd be able to see it from south
It's a little
and
bit-
north traffic.
Again, that's up to you. I guess I just want to give them some direction on how high to go with it. Because, to me, this seems pretty much out of proportion for the end cap here. Maybe it's not so bad. And this sticks out too. So the other, so this is deceiving to some extent, right? Because this is showing a big overhang here. So we need to get this back into proportion and to make it look like what it's actually
We
gonna
weren't
be.
gonna change the overhang. We were gonna stay in the
No,
same.
but that's not
I
your
know, it
show.
looks
I
in
mean,
that
what do you
sliver
want us to
through
do?
the picture, obviously.
I mean,
It looks bulky. I
yeah,
agree.
so I mean, it's.
We
a
were gonna
question.
stay within the confines of the building and just come up with I
Yeah.
believe.
Well, that's not what the plan shows. So we gotta go with what the plan shows.
And go back to the other store. No, the Jersey Mike's or whatever it is.
What's that?
The Jersey
Oh,
Mike's.
you want to,
It does go around the corner a little.
Yeah.
And see how it's trimmed on the top a little bit?
Not all the way.
Yeah,
So
well done.
we would mimic
Okay.
identical. We would just go to the end of the building to make it aesthetically pleasing, but we would stay at the 50-foot, go all the way around. And essentially do the same ephes cuts to match that side. We'll do the white. And so forth.
What do you all think about the two signs?
I'd like to see some elevations
Yeah.
on there proposing with our input and see what you think. We think.
See what the modified looks
I'd
like.
have to look at it again, but I'm not sure how visible the sign on the end of the building is gonna be.
Well, it's not on the, it's 45 on to 80 to Route 11 though.
I mean, there's a tree out there in the way and I don't know, I just.
Yeah, and you can't cut down my trees.
so you'll get a view of it from
Did you
here.
say
I said, yeah, and he can't cut down my trees.
That's for sure.
Yeah, and that's gonna be up here. I mean, they're gonna come all the way across here. And so it'll be up in, I don't know. Seems out of proportion to me, but whatever.
Yeah, on the other side, it doesn't go all the way though, right?
No, but it's not visible.
Just
then,
goes
is it?
around the corner.
Oh, okay.
It's really not visible
I don't know.
from 11.
I think it would look funny if we stopped, if we stopped it even midway, you're still gonna have view of the roof and so forth.
Well, I think you have an idea what we're looking for. You can get something in paper for us for the next,
Most definitely.
Okay.
So if we come back with the color palette and the ephes for that side. And it's gonna go all the way to the end and so there's certain things I know Dave's won't budge on and will have me walk away. And there's things that I know aesthetically I could probably convince them. So I just want to make sure that, I definitely have a clear understanding is that they're gonna want me to cover up that side. it's a contingency in our lease. It's a contingency in my franchise agreement with them. It was a separate agreement, signed and guaranteed. So they won't let me continue. They'll have me walk away from the site. So I just want to make sure I'm not, if we can extend to the end, we can EFS, we can do what they did over on Jersey Mike's is keep in line with the pinnacle at the top. And so forth, and we'll have them design it that way. I'd like to go back to them and say, here's what I need to do, and the town will approve it if I do this, and this.
Well, and you're not gonna do where you came into the parking lot by a couple of feet anyway. We're gonna stay flush with the other buildings, other signs.
Yeah, he's gonna mimic the other side.
Overhang.
You have an overhang on yours coming in front of the glass windows.
No, so and I apologize, that's how it's drawn, but that's not the case. That was actually just painted underneath.
All we know is what we see on the drawing, and right now it's, you got an overhang.
So essentially it's this first page. It's with the elevations and so forth. Some of the pictures were earlier stages. Yeah, let's wait. No.
We can only work with what you give us in the drawing, and it's
Should
showing an
most definitely.
overhang.
So we originally had dropped off the pictures, and then we were asked to send and bring in large copies and send in
It's
the
up there on the
elevation.
screen.
So
It's right there.
Yeah.
It shows it overhanging in
Correct.
front of the building.
It might be helpful if you extend this out too and show building next to it, so you get some sort of idea of proportion, and how it fits in with the facade next to it.
Yeah, it might be the same depth as in front of the cleaner.
it is.
If we look at, but you can't, because there's so much red, you can't really tell. Optical illusion.
Steve's right, there is an overhang on this.
Just hard to tell on that.
It's shown an overhang on this as well.
Yeah, if you point up, go up top, you see that overhang right there? That overhang is the same as when you go down to the bottom one.
That's existing now.
Yeah,
Existing.
those are existing we're not breaching the actual structure. We're just going up with a new wall per se to cover the air conditioning. When you look at the building, you see the air conditioning utilities on the seat up on the roof. That was the idea.
And people.
The sign,
People won't come
I'm
to
not the
Dave's
sign
Hot
guy.
Chicken because they see an air
no,
conditioner.
I know, but he wanted the aesthetics of the building to look for his business.
Well, I mean, so theoretically, and we can't give you an answer today until we see it, right? But he's asking if we would agree to, in theory, what they're asking for and what we've shared with them.
If the plaza looks like it's one unit with both ends looking alike and the other that's existing, I think that makes some sense.
But we're not gonna vote on that tonight till we see it.
So essentially, is this something that if we have redone, that we would be able to email you guys and have you approve it?
I'll be glad to look at it.
Be at the next meeting.
You send it to my office and we're gonna shoot it to the board. Yeah,
But we're talking 3 weeks.
2 weeks.
Our engineer is gonna review as well the entire site and make comments. We're gonna look at parking, that kind of thing. And yeah, our next meeting is in 2 weeks. If you get that stuff back to Steve's office a week before, we can get you on the next agenda.
One of the things you indicate,
It's the 4th of July holiday. Following week, so really gotta be next Wednesday, this 2 days before the holiday to take a look at.
Probably be the meeting after.
Unless they do that in 2 weeks, I mean, they should be colored though, I mean, it should forget it, for examples.
the other thing
Mark
you
gets his
said
review
in,
letter out pretty quick, so once you get his review letter, you'll know what you need to submit to us. And we'll work with you and get you on the agenda as soon as possible.
one of the things you said in here is that there'll be no increase in current traffic. I'd like to have you show me how that's true. You know, whether it means you had a count for your, at a normal store, whatever, but then that also will help our engineer look at the total parking for that plaza to make sure that we have, with two restaurants in the same plaza, that we have enough parking for the other stores that are there.
Okay.
Steve, anything?
No, I'm all set. Thank you.
Mark? Anything else from you?
No, so essentially just revisiting, so we're gonna go back, we're gonna create the 50-foot both sides, ephes, and matching the Jersey Mikes, the essentially
The
what they
trim.
have there, the trim. And then we'll put a color behind it. Jersey Mikes is not the same color as the rest of the plaza, but we'll put a color behind it that blends and so forth.
Yeah. And they're not gonna tell you it's gotta be black, are they?
No.
Okay.
No, we'll make it look nice. So.
Okay.
Perfect.
And then keep an eye out for Mr. Parrish's review letter.
Wonderful. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Traeger, Trager. Thank you, guys.
Next agenda item is for a PUD sketch review. This is the Gabrielli Development for the property 8016 Brewerton Road, from regional commercial to PUD. Mr. Bouchard, he's representing the applicant. Hello, welcome back.
Thank you. Good evening. For the record, my name is Steve Haskins. I am with United Development Corp., the developer for this project known as Metro North by Gabrielli Development. As an introduction, we were here last year with the same Metro North PUD. It was a much different project. And as an introduction for tonight's application, I want to give a little bit of history of what's occurred since the last application was denied, and just set the tone of where we're at and what's changed. Our last application was denied in middle of December last year, and the week following, myself and my principal, Michael Ussolini, met with the town supervisor and Councilman Karp. And basically, the message was there. What does the town want to see at 8016 Brewerton Road? We fully intend to honor the commitment to purchase the property. We want to develop it. We want to know what the town really wants to see there. And the message from the supervisor and Councilman Karp was, well, we know we don't want to see just all apartments. So they said, we want to see a kind of a village, a town village or town center type concept. We'd like to see maybe a nice restaurant back there. We'd like to see maybe a hotel back there, along with the multifamily and the senior residential uses. So we talked about that. We talked about the fact that, because it was off US 11, what type of businesses we might anticipate would be back there. And it was things like that, as well as potentially businesses that would serve the population, the senior population, maybe chiropractors or medical office, and then, maybe some smaller mom and pop shop type stores. So we took that information back and we made a commitment to them. This was the week before Christmas. And we made a commitment to them to get them a concept plan early in July or January to see if we had understood what they had told us about what they wanted to see. So we did that in early January. We worked with Brian to come up with a mixed use concept plan that had this mix of multifamily mixed use buildings, active adult senior, with the townhomes and the hotel pad. And we gave that plan. We got a few comments back from them. We made some minor changes and we gave it back to them. And that plan, I think, went to Steve in early February, I think. And the supervisor and Steve looked at it, made some comments on it, and we were supposed to get back and meet. And then we didn't hear anything for a while. And we were in March, I was on my way out here to look at some other property in the area, and I called the supervisor and said, hey, we'd like to come in and meet with you and discuss the plan we left with you. And his response was, I've given that over to our new comprehensive plan committee and asked them to take a look at it. And they're looking at it now. Can we meet next week? And I said, sure. So we set up a meeting for the following week with the supervisor and Councilman Carp. And what we didn't know was that the town had hired Bergman as their consultant for a comprehensive plan review. And what the supervisor had done was given our plan to Bergman and said, you guys are doing our comp plan. We don't want these guys to have to wait till the comp plan is done. We'd like you to look at this and tell us what it would look like if the comp plan was done. And we didn't know that was going on. We thought we just kind of got lost in the shuffle. So we come in to meet with the supervisor, and on the screen is a Zoom meeting with the people from Bergman. And that team included John Steinmetz, Tom Robinson, and another person whose last name is Quigley, who the three principals were basically a landscape architect, a planner, who had taken our plan and kept all the same goals of occupancy and uses, but had laid it out in what they felt was a much more what it would look like once the comp plan is done. And the end result of that, after a few tweaks with them, we had 2 more meetings with them, is the plan we are going over today. And so this plan has been, the layout and the flow and everything has been generated. It's much different looking than the one, and I wanted to show you the one we originally gave to the town tonight, but we weren't able to get it up on the screen. But we have all the same uses, all the same layouts and population, but it's laid out in a much more cohesive and friendly manner. They floated this idea, this concept of the 4 corners town center type concept. That you'll notice that from our original iteration, they moved the cross connect road further away and used the parking as buffers around the buildings. The parking is behind the buildings. You're going to have this 4-corner streetscape. We've got sidewalks and bike paths, so it's like a very much parallel parking along the street. And I'm going to let Brian explain those uses, but what we've got here now is what we had originally talked about, which is the bottom left-hand corner is a hotel pad. One of the things that we've got a typo that was in last week's agenda item, and I think it carried over to this one. We originally started out with an 86-room hotel footprint. We kicked it up to 110. So it's the hotel pad on the bottom left. The northern quarter, the 2 buildings there is the mixed use retail area. And then everything to the east of the property is the active adult. And that's the other thing that's unique about this, is that's the multifamily and the active adult are all going to exist on one property under one management. So it's going to be a multi-generational mixed use community development. So that's how we got here today. Bergman was very good to work with. They were very complimentary of Brian, of how everything that they presented to us as their ideas for this type of development, Brian picked up on. He was able to stay in sync with them in their thinking, and they felt that we had very much maintained their ideas of what this development should look like in this concept plan. We presented this plan to the town board last Wednesday, and now it's been referred for the PUD recommendation to the planning board. So I'll let Brian present the actual concept.
Thank you.
Thank you. Brian Bouchard with CHA Consulting, project engineer. Really two themes there that Tim had mentioned that kind of brought us from yesterday to today. One is that it was very clear that a completely private residential project was not desirable for this area of the town. So what has been created now is a mixed-use development that would be accessible to other people outside the town, right? So restaurants, hotels, commercial areas, so that you have a purpose to go back to the site rather than having it fully private. The second was the idea of this town center, which was really lacking in the old plan. And what we've done here is create, if you can look at the screen, essentially a four-way intersection. And there's a few things that this does. Number one, it pulls the access drive further away from the single-family residential neighborhood. We've pulled the buildings further away from that neighborhood as well, so that there's buffer area between them. And what this creates is a four corners like you would see in a small village or town, where the buildings are positioned directly along the streets, both to the north corners and the south corners of those intersections. Where we start with is obviously, as you know, the traffic signal intersection from Route 11 that brings you back into the site to the four corners. Then there's a north-south connection that would connect with Walmart, where we've talked about this connection in the past. And then also continuing this off of our site with the help of Wide Waters to connect with the existing ring road that surrounds that Marshall Plaza side of Wegmans property. If you can understand, when you come into that property and you take a left, there's essentially the ring road that comes around that, I think Sally's Beauty or whatever it is. And it quite literally touches where we can match that existing edge of pavement there. So it would be another access point to get to a traffic signal. Streetscape design was one thing that Bergman took us through in terms of the planning here, not just with the uses, but that the idea of the four corners is to position the buildings on the four corners, but it's also to create a streetscape that you would picture in a village. So having things like on-street parallel parking for the businesses, having storefronts along the streets for the businesses with patio seating and cafes outside, having landscape areas along the streets along with bike lanes. So this is very much more like the center of a town or a village in that respect. The buildings that we have here, just to describe the uses to you, these two buildings are the mixed use buildings. It's very similar in footprint to the old flats apartments. So what this would have is first floor street level commercial activity. Obviously no tenants chosen, but we've created some patio areas that would be perfect for like a restaurant end cap, and then retail spaces in between. And the upper three floors would be the same number of multifamily apartments that we had on the old plan. If you can remember, these buildings previously had an entire garage for the first floor, which was part of our difficulty in trying to manage parking, the driveway, snow storage, et cetera. So this is quite similar to a footprint with first floor commercial and upper floor multifamily apartments. The core of these buildings in the center would be where the leasing office, elevators, lobby, and amenity spaces for the residents would be. So the orange sections are the commercial, totaling 24,000 square feet of commercial space. And then the center would be that residential lobby. The southwest corner here is basically a standalone hotel pad site. As Tim mentioned, we've used a few different footprints. Hotels are very similar in that they're a double loaded corridor. The length of the buildings are very similar, but supporting anywhere between 90 to 110 rooms with its own parking, its own utilities, its own driveway access, so that it could act as more of a pad site. The last corner, which is the southeast corner, would be the senior building, so multi-floor building for active adult living. It would be a connected building, but the first floor would be cut out, so there could be a driveway connection. Again, maintaining that street facade, but still having a way to get in and out of the parking lot here. And this started as a standard L shape, and in working with Bergman, wanting more mass on the corner, we extended the building further along the corner and positioned patios and outdoor seating areas for the seniors on that corner as well. When you come in the access road, you would see this divided median that really kind of frames between the buildings, the senior clubhouse that would be in the rear. And when you look at how we position this, there's essentially the mixed use component, north and south and east and west. And around this perimeter road would be more of, a less trafficked road where we have the senior townhome apartments. So these 4 buildings are 2-story townhome apartments for the seniors, with the clubhouse in the middle for the seniors, and then the multi-story building for the seniors here. In terms of the issues that we had went through with the past project, things like parking, I went through the parking counts for this mix of uses and all of the criteria that were given to us by the planning board before in terms of number of spaces per unit for both multifamily and senior, along with what Bergman has proof tested as an acceptable parking count for the retail and commercial uses is provided on this plan. There's obviously, as I mentioned, a lot more green space and shoulder width to accommodate snow storage. One of the things that we had talked about was some of the confined areas on the previous apartment project where there was large lengths of driveways and garages that would make plowing snow a lot more difficult. So there's a purposeful intent to providing wider shoulders and snow shelves and green islands throughout all the parking areas. And then some of the other things that come along with the idea of a walkable community like this, where you're living here and also being able to visit shops, is including sidewalks on all the frontages, both to Route 11 and throughout the development. So sidewalks, bike lanes, we've already looked at sanitary sewer and a lot of the other things that we've been through with the experience from the last project. And present this plan with our zone change application, as Tim mentioned, to the town board at their last meeting and to you at this meeting, which is really the first step. This is the preliminary development plan. And what we would like is time enough for you to review and comment on this and provide your approval in principle of the idea of this planned unit development being a mixed use, or alternatively, what types of revisions or comments or things that we can include in the plan to gain your understanding of principal approval prior to moving forward with what's called the detailed site plan review, which would be grading, drainage, utilities, landscaping, et cetera. So with that, I'll turn it back over for comments if you could.
Brian, can you go over the elevations of each building?
Elevations.
Stories.
So we are currently working on the architecture still, having solidified what the footprints are. What we show here is an example of what the architecture would look like. This was given to us by Bergman of a mixed use building. So that would be these 2 buildings here. They're each 4 stories, ground level street commercial storefronts with 3 stories of apartments. Each one is 42 units. This example architecture is of a more traditional townhome style. So 2 stories, which would be these 4 buildings here, the 2-story townhomes, hotels, 4-story, and the senior apartment is 4-story. Again, we had 4-story buildings in the previous iteration, and one of the underlining zoning rules in the RC is 60-foot height, which we would look to match in terms of, obviously a hotel is already an allowable use in the RC district at 4 stories. And our PUD is simply to accommodate the mix of uses that we have here, which isn't necessarily depicted that way in the RC district, which is essentially made for big box stores, right?
Were in the old site plan, were they all 4-story?
So the flats buildings were 4 stories, correct? And we also had townhomes that were 2 stories, and the senior apartment building, which was a much longer sprawled out footprint, was 3 stories. This has less units in it and a smaller footprint, but it's been moved to the south side of the project, but it is 4 stories, yes.
Thanks. We'll open to questions, Mr. Duval.
Okay, the housing, is it strictly senior or like the townhomes? Can anybody purchase them or?
So the flats apartments that are these 2 buildings here are the multifamily apartments. Everything that you see around the perimeter road with the townhomes and the senior building is active adult living, which I believe is age restricted.
Age restricted, 55 and above, yes.
All rental, right?
Yes.
Correct.
How about the
So it's
townhomes?
all rental,
Same.
Townhomes is
55 and above?
55 and above, and everything is rental, yes.
including the townhome?
Yes.
And there was talk before about lining up with a light on Route 11. Would that still be the case?
Correct, yes. The traffic signal and, well, the traffic signal and the other mitigation that we were proposing in terms of timing that signal with, I think it was 7 different intersections up and down the street to optimize the traffic flow with that signal would still be provided as part of this project. That traffic signal would be yes.
And this would be, the road going into it would be maintained by the town?
So I think as part of Mark's review or the town's review is that, yes, we have proposed a portion of this to become town dedicated right away. And I think we're still maybe awaiting sort of some of that comment and feedback from staff on which portions of the road would be dedicated. We've left right of way width for all of them to be dedicated, but there was some conversation as to where that would start and stop. But I don't think we're at that point yet
Okay.
until we get some feedback from Kate and Mark on that.
Okay,
One thing to understand about this new layout is once the cross connects go in and with the way it'll be done, somebody can literally come from Target across the road and come through and all the way down to Wegmans and then further on down to Home Depot or wherever without ever getting out on US 11.
That's a good thing.
So that's, and that's, so there's going to be a significant amount of traffic to support this retail that's going in these ground floor retail.
that's all I have for right now.
Mr. Abbey?
I was curious on the townhomes, on this side here, is there any underground parking?
No, so there are garages still, I believe, right? Garages
Yeah,
provided
they're your standard townhome with a 1-car garage.
and a driveway space. And one of the points of contention last time was that obviously sometimes people store stuff in the garage and that we don't want to count both the garage and the driveway space as having 2 spaces. When you add up the townhomes and the parking available in the senior, we do still hit the 1.5 spaces to 1 unit that we were requested of. So essentially, everybody gets a car. I guess if you wanted to park in the garage, but if we didn't count it, you would have a car in your driveway and you would still have the ability to park either in a separate detached garage or the surface parking next to the clubhouse.
Because I noticed in the bottom right, the only ones that I saw parked garage.
Yeah, so that's to balance out. Obviously, it's an amenity in our area, right, to have some covered parking. So we didn't want to provide all garages, but there are detached individual garages for some of those seniors to park in. Sure.
And then the parking spots around everything. One thing I noticed is we'd like to see is crosswalks for all these people,
Sure.
especially getting into the commercial.
Yeah, really
areas.
tough to show every blade of grass on a sky level view, but certainly every intersection would be stop controlled and sidewalks with ADA ramps so that even people with scooters and buggies and whatnot can still be able to traverse the loop that will exist along the storefronts and out along the back with the seniors
So
there.
that's been dealt with. For example, about in the middle where it has the 4-story bottom floor commercial. Are those accessible from both sides?
Correct. So the storefronts would be accessible from either your parallel parking spaces along the street where there's some little nooks and crannies for cafe seating or, storefronts. And there would also be doors accessible from the back, which is the parking. So purposely putting the parking behind the building, but you would be able to get to both sides. Yeah.
And the far right, that's wetlands with the path built in there.
Correct. So not a lot of use to us because of, the wetland area that is here. But one of the things that Bergman talked to us about was, even though we're not developing it and leaving it as a buffer area between us and the highway, essentially, the ability to still put something like stone dust trails and have it be sort of an amenity to the residents back there. So certainly the plan. Yeah.
I was curious on the far side of your drawing here. How close is it from there to 81?
That's it. We cut it off right at the property line. So there's maybe
What's right up
I think
against?
there's about a 50-foot distance between the edge of our property line and where that ditch is on the side of 81.
Okay.
But that's That's what you get right there. Yeah. And I can zoom out a little bit to show you context in the next plan, but it's right there.
So with all the wetlands here, it's a great buffer for the people that live in there.
Correct. You know, it is kind of a natural area currently, and obviously there was a lot of issues with us being able to develop that side between sewer flows and pumping and road connections, et cetera. So not only is it a buffer, but maybe having some trails and kind of leaving it there. There was also talk at one point of, you know, the town's planning, having an idea of a road over there, which I think is better served in the middle of the site where we have it, not in the wetlands, but at this point, it's certainly better as a buffer.
What, in the wetlands area, what is the vegetation at this point?
Well, right now, if you go out there, I mean, this has been delineated as a wetland, but you can walk across it in some spots, you know, it's not standing water where ducks are swimming around in it type of thing. Occasionally, you know, it will become wet. So while it's qualified as a wetland, it's not like a swamp or a pond or a bog. It's vegetation, right? It's 10, 15 foot tall shrub and brush essentially.
So there's no alligators then?
No, not yet. No.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Snyder.
Well, I'm a little conflicted with what we're been asked to do because the town board, two members of the town board talked with the people doing the overall plan and back and forth and came back with this plan. So it almost puts me in a position where anything I say, if the town board and the people doing the master plan say this is what it ought to be, then, you know, I don't know. However, this plan, I think, is much more positive than the last one. I think the fact that you've taken the parking along the Lincoln Avenue subdivision and you've taken it away, so we don't have a road right behind their adjacent to their road, Gray Road or whatever it is. It also puts the connection with Walmart closer to the end of Walmart Plaza. So it'd make a much smoother connection where we were actually coming behind what was Walmart. We'd hit a turn right or left, whatever. I see that as a positive. Is the proposed access that's to the south of the car dealer, is that part of this project?
Yes,
So you as a developer will be doing that.
yes.
Yeah, I took that route today. It really is great. I think your comment about how people could come from Target, blah, blah, blah. It does take, would allow you to do a lot of shopping without touching Route 11, which we know is a major problem. So I think that's definitely a positive from the last plan. I'm a little concerned that you say there is a garage in the
Townhome.
townhomes. Now, are you going to do what you said the last time is you're gonna tell people they can't store anything in their garage and you're gonna go police that and
We will, and the lease will say that if you have a garage, your car has to be parked in that garage. Same thing with the ones down at the bottom.
well, okay, so I now live in one of the two commercial buildings in the apartment up above.
Right.
And you're gonna tell me that if I have a garage way down here in the corner, you're gonna tell me I gotta put my car in there?
Those garages down in the corner are only for the active adult seniors living in that senior building.
Oh,
They get to park in the parking lot.
Yeah, the way that we've distributed the parking is essentially even between each one of the four quadrants. So considering the retail and multifamily in these two quadrants, there's parking to support them. The hotel all the parking to support the hotel uses here and the seniors here, with exception of the driveway / garages and having half a space per unit balanced out in the surface parking lot, essentially, even if we didn't count the
Yeah.
garages, which.
So what you're really saying is the people in the high rise
There is
don't
no
have garages
No, there
except
aren't.
if you're in the senior housing,
Correct.
Correct, yeah.
okay? You indicated that the crossroad is part of the project. 65 feet, Steve, is that our maximum height now, or is that going to be something the PUD deals with?
Well, currently in the regional commercial district, 60 feet is the limit. Right. So the PUD would, you make that determination to the.
So one of the determinations in a PUD is whether we would want them to go to 65 feet.
Did you, yeah, did you?
No,
say 65
so
feet?
actually, we are still developing the actual building elevations. 60 feet is what the guidance is currently in the district. If we came to you today with just a hotel pad site here, 60 feet is what has already been kind of deemed to be appropriate. I think we're trying to meet that 60 feet.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the architectural guidance, the one up in the top left is the guidance that we've subscribed to and Bergman and everybody subscribed to is how we want this to kind of look. So those buildings will probably be flat roofed. If we keep in true conscience with that, which means we won't have any high peaks. So 60 is probably going to be fine.
And that won't be any problem with our fire department, right? I mean, 60 feet, they've,
No, I mean,
because we
certainly they'll weigh in on our access and operations, but they have aerial ladder trucks.
one of the things you indicated in your write-up, for commercial activity only, projected number of trucks, trips, day, like semi-trailers, whatnot, you said NA. If you're talking about senior building, you're talking about, prime, you're talking about delivery to the hotel. There obviously is going to be an increase. There'll be a number of trucks. God, I know in our apartment complex, the Amazon trucks and the FedEx trucks do more traveling in our neighborhood than the cars for the people that live there. So I think you need to, look at that number based on some facts I'm sure that are available to you. So we kind of have a feel for what that might be. And then also it might even include having a drop-off spot in front of each building.
We
that
do.
is not parked, regular
Yeah.
parking.
Makes sense.
We do use package lockers. So,
Your mailboxes and stuff.
well, we have the US mailboxes will be in the lobby for US Mail. But we also now incorporate the Amazon Hub package lockers in each of the buildings. So the multifamily there'll be a package locker in the lobby of each one of those buildings. The senior garden apartment buildings, there'll be a package locker there. And then the townhomes will just get delivered normally like they deliver to your house, But those multifamily buildings will all have parcel rooms with package lockers in them. So that's where that traffic will be coming to.
How does that work? I mean, if you have a box in the lobby for Amazon, but you got, 42 apartments, how?
All of your residents are registered with the box. So all the guy delivering it has to do is go and he scans the box and he scans a locker. And then he closes the door and it automatically sends a notice to the resident, your package is in locker number 42.
Okay, I like it. I like it.
And it'll be helpful with these because the buildings are accessible on both sides. So if they've got a lot of deliveries like that, they can pull into the parking lot in the back rather than stop on the street. And the parcel locker rooms will be in the back off the parking side to encourage them to do that. So they're not stopping in the middle of the street.
Right. I guess then I'm more excited with this project than the last one, obviously. Yes, we do have to determine who owns what roads, but we'll work that out, I'm sure. And I can't wait till I see the architect drawings of, what the thing will look like. So I'm good for now. Thank you.
Mr. Bloss.
One of our previous meetings, there was an issue about easements and, at that, I don't have a date, but you had not received certain easements. Where were the easements and
I
do you
think
have
what-
them now?
What we were talking about was we were talking about the cross access to the Wegmans to the south.
Yes.
For the previous project, we had not anticipated doing that until such time as Wide Waters developed that parcel.
So you have received.
So we,
on the
are-
easement?
well, our agreement is that prior to first occupancy, we will have worked out and be able to provide that road.
Another thing is, I brought this up once before on that, the road going into the, Lincoln.
Yeah, the connection.
Right.
I didn't like it when I first saw it. I don't like it now because I know what's gonna happen once that signal light's in there and that traffic backs up a little bit, somebody that's going out of this development is gonna cut right through there.
And that's perfectly fine.
But not with the people that are there.
No, I'm saying our position has always been, it could stay the way it is without a connection. It could be a one-way drive in, but don't drive out. It could be an emergency crash gate, or it could be a two-way connection. We would be willing to provide it in any capacity that the town or the town board works out with the public input that they have. We're indifferent to it. It doesn't help our development to leave that way. We have a traffic signal that would be installed, so it doesn't help or hurt us to provide it. The intent of providing it is that there's 30-something homes in there with a signalized intersection, and turning left is a very dangerous movement. They will be benefited by the gaps in traffic that's created by the signal, essentially at red lights, so they'll get better left turning movements. But there's a certain emergency access and benefit for the residents to be able to leave and use a traffic signal rather than the stop controlled intersection. But this is not something that we have any position on really, except for that we're willing to build it.
Whatever decided, we'll build it as part of the project. So.
I think opposite of him. I think it would be good. I think it would benefit the residents.
The other thing is where we got, commercial. You look at the commercial, obviously the first floor will be commercial.
Yes.
Okay, the rest is apartments. I'm looking at that. If I live in one of those apartments, I'm gonna have to park my vehicle in with all the commercial traffic.
Correct. I mean, that is that is what mixed use development is, right? It's a shared parking lot. There is an opportunity if it's a private development, I guess, to number spaces specific to a resident, but now you have more issues if somebody doesn't have, a car, they don't need a parking space, et cetera. And now you have numbered spaces. So it is meant to be a shared parking lot. Yes.
I have no further questions.
Mrs. Hogan.
I can't remember from last time. What was the ratio in terms of how much, this seems like more senior living than last time. Am I correct?
No, it's the original project that we presented with the first application, the original one was a total of 400 units, of which 220 were multifamily and 180 were senior. The iteration that was recommended for approval by this board was 300 total, 150 multifamily and 150 active adult. So this project is 220 total with 84 multifamily and 136 active adult.
Okay. What
Plus
was the
the apartment.
reasoning?
I mean, the hotel.
Excuse me, plus the hotel, yes.
What was the reasoning behind making the ratio that much higher for senior living? What was the?
Well, it worked out basically because the mixed use building is what was the old flats building, which was the 42 units per building with the parking all the way around, which is designed, the units are already set, they're already designed. So we've just adapted that building to this with the 84 units. And then the townhomes were already designed for the multifamily, but we are now doing more townhomes for the active adults. So we just repurposed those. We took out the 3 bedrooms, kept the 2 bedrooms for the seniors. And then this new senior garden style building is a totally new design. Based upon basically the massing of the building that they wanted to be able to balance out. And the 114 units was what we were able to get in. It's not even designed yet. It may not be 114. By the time we start putting in elevators and stairwells and all of that other stuff, we may not be able to get 114 in that building, but that's the target.
Okay. Yeah, I guess my concern is having this be accessible to other residents that are currently here too. It's just a lot of space to be kind of designated just for senior living. I guess I'm just a little confused as to like, who do you see as your primary person living in these apartments? What kind of businesses you would see going in here? Just trying to understand the plan for this much space. I am with the board that I love the sidewalks. I remember that being one of the things that I had requested because I love walking and not driving. So I really like that. And I like the accessibility to the other shopping. I guess I'm just trying to wrap my head around, you know, like who fits in here.
Tim and I talked about this, and truly being this far back off Route 11 and the fact that Route 11 has every other single national franchise chain along it,
Mhm.
there's going to be very few of those types of uses, right? Each one of these end caps is 6,000 square feet. So you can picture them being subdivided into potentially 3 smaller 1,500 or 2,000 square foot tenants, as he mentioned, sort of like a small business, right? Like a local small business, a restaurant, instead of being something like an Applebee's, might be something like the Buried Acorn or something that's local to us, who's looking for space in Cicero, but can't afford to buy, you know, the end cap of Jersey Mike's Plaza type of thing. So I think that's probably not set in stone, and there may be other people, but like individual doctors, or like you said, you know, massage or like chiropractors, people who have a reason to have a business and stay and work in Cicero, would, I think, be those types of tenants.
Other things is, like with our multifamily, like we always build a gym, right? So it may be that instead of putting a gym as part of our amenity space, you know, we have a gym that is in the building as a open to the public business, and we give a membership to that, to our residents rather than. So all of that will flush out as we start to move down the path and get these buildings designed and start to talk to potential residents. As to the residents themselves, this is going to be the multifamily side. There will be some 3-bedroom units in that multifamily project. So it may be young families and young professionals, probably a lot of roommate situations. I mean, we see that a lot. You'll also maybe have some younger empty nesters who aren't ready to live the active adult lifestyle yet. I mean, we've had that in some of our newer projects where we've had people who are in their 50s move in, and after a year say, I'm not ready for this, you know, I'm not ready for this community lifestyle. I want to go back to a regular apartment complex. So that'll be the mix you have there in the multifamily. And then the active adult, your townhomes will obviously be your younger seniors in most cases who are still active and still want to downsize out of their home, but they don't want to move into an apartment yet. Maybe they want the upstairs bedrooms for the grandkids, or they want a backyard of their private backyard. So you're talking about seniors who will be in their, you know, 50s to early 70s. And then the garden style apartments will be a lot of couples, but a lot of single, you know, widowed or single seniors, or maybe seniors living together like sisters and things like that. And their average age will be higher. It'll be upper 70s to early 80s. And that'll be the mix of the community.
Okay. I think that's it for me for now.
Thank you. I want to start by addressing Mr. Snyder's initial comment about the board getting involved. And typically, I would agree, but PUDs, as we all know, are a different animal, and our function is to make a recommendation to the town board and they get the final say. And the fact that Bergman has been involved, I think is a very good thing and it shows and it's reflective in the plans that we're looking at tonight. So just my take on that aspect. And then the cross connection, as I already stated, I disagree with you. Local traffic only is very important and obviously input from the residents is very important, but I've actually gone into that neighborhood during busy times and tried to take a left out intentionally to see what it's like. It's not fun. So I think they would benefit from having the street light, but we'll get their input and it's got to be local traffic and go on from there. I think another important aspect of that neighborhood is a good buffer between them and the businesses and apartments that are right behind them. And so I don't see any landscaping or anything there yet.
Just hasn't been developed yet.
Okay.
But it's purposeful where we put it though. So the town does have the right of way, which touches the property line. There's about 10 feet or so between the edge of pavement and the actual town's property line that obviously we wouldn't touch. When you look down that property line, there are large trees that kind of hug both sides of it. So what we've tried to do is at least respect 8 to 10 feet on our side of the property so that the large mature trees can stay and still provide 10 feet of additional green space that could accommodate, you know, a swale or drainage that we know is coming off of that property, along with interplanting the landscaping and then having a median buffer between it with the parking area that you see as well. So we thought about it, but the final landscape plan is to be presented still.
Yeah, and that shows, and I appreciate that. The walking path area. I think last time you left it open that that area may be developed in the future. That's not the case anymore, correct?
No, it's not.
Right, that's all I got, Steve.
All set, thanks.
All set.
Mr. Parrish.
All said, I guess, I think the next step, I can take the liberty to do so. So the board is supposed to give written comments back to the applicant on this plan. So I think we can work together with the board, myself, Neil, Steve, et cetera, get something drafted. If we need some additional information from the applicant, we can request that. So I think, you know, might take a meeting or two to get that done. But, you know, that's the next step. And I think if I can just comment on the previous process, it was a little contentious. I think we kind of skipped that a little bit. And so that's where we may have run into some issues with you know, communicating to the applicant well what the planning board's desires are. So I think that's our next step here, is to get written comments back on this plan, saying what we like, what we might want changed, et cetera. So.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And my request is that which we've talked about through the process is we keep that communication open and expedient as possible. We would like to break ground on this project this year. And there seems to be a lot of excitement about this new layout, and we're looking forward to moving forward with it. So we want to get through the process as quickly as we can. And hopefully with a lot less contention and more of a partnership.
Tim also told me to put every Cicero planning board meeting on my calendar to the end of the year. So I'll be available for the next meeting if you need to, but I agree with Mark, when you guys have a chance to put your comments together, or if you need us here at the next meeting to talk about your comments in particular, that would be appreciated, because the next step truly is detailing this site plan, at which point it becomes a little bit more difficult to grossly change things, if you will.
And I've got a design team working 24/7 to redesign this project. And so, you know, the flats buildings, even though they were originally designed, the original flats buildings with the way we had the garages, the elevators were separated, right? They were a third of the way down the hallway. Well, with this new design, we had to pull the elevators into the center core. So they've had to tear the building apart and reshuffle it all back together to get the elevators in the center core. And now we're trying to figure out how the amenity spaces we're gonna put there. But the footprint is pretty much set. The townhomes were done, so not a lot of work there. But this new senior building and the clubhouse is a whole brand new. We didn't talk about the clubhouse either, I don't think. Which one, Brian?
It's the red button.
Okay. There it is. This clubhouse right here is a brand new design, 10,000 square foot clubhouse for the senior amenity space only. So it'll be the people in the townhomes and the people in the garden apartments. It'll be our typical active adult clubhouse, which will feature the leasing management offices. It'll have a great room with a catering kitchen. It'll have an indoor lap pool and locker room. And then we'll have a media center for TVs and cultural events, craft center, game room, those types of amenities. And it's for the number of senior units is pretty large, but I think that's because we're going to do a little bit bigger pool than we normally do in these. And then adjacent to that will be the amenity area here, which will be, you know, outdoor courts, pickleball, bocce, things like that. We will also have around in the multifamily space, we will have bike storage inside for those units. We will have, there will be bike paths on the crossroads, and we'll have bike rack parking around the property as well to encourage biking in the summertime.
I was curious, how's the trash handled?
The trash for the multifamily mixed use will be dumpster pads. The senior gardens will have a trash chute with a compactor. And then the townhomes will probably be just the roll, you know, the regular rollout cans that you roll out to the curb on trash day.
Thank you.
And there will probably be a small dumpster for the clubhouse.
The other comment that if you look at, I live in an apartment building that's 3 stories high, has 1 elevator. The elevator was down for like 17 or 18 days.
Yep.
I know code wise, that's okay.
We always do too.
Bless you, my son.
Uh,
The other thing that I was thinking about it as we went on it, that the differential on road work. I almost hate to say what I'm going to say, but I'm going to say it anyway. If the 4 corners was a traffic circle, that would be where our plows would go in, turn around and drive back out, and would be a known point of reference for everybody. You know, your contractor moving snow and our town people coming and doing their thing. So
I think your consultant's probably rolling over it. It's not his grave because he's not in it right now, but I think you just destroyed his whole idea because they're really, part of that is where you see this right down here, that patio.
Yeah.
So the idea there was without it, that corner opposite the hotel didn't have enough mass to really give it this 4-corner look that they want. But we didn't want to build another 4 stories of flooring there. So we proposed this outdoor covered patio that looks like part of the building. It's attached to the building. It's covered. And it can be used if you've got a restaurant there, you can have tables out there, you could have an outdoor bar. If it's allowed, you could have an outdoor bar there or whatever. But from the street, it looks like the building. So that's the image that they're really, and they showed us a bunch of screenshots of places where they were trying to recreate here in upstate New York, ideas of other places that they're the idea to recreate here. And we're all for it. I mean, we're happy to have had their input. You know, and it was, and they first told us when they first gave us their iteration, they said, we haven't changed your programming at all. We just are showing you a better way to make it work together. And we appreciated the insight.
Can I just say one more thing? Sorry. This is why I asked about the whole trying to understand who lives here too, because I saw the clubhouse. This was another thing that came up in my mind. If I'm somebody who's living in that apartment, I guess I'm just a little sour and I feel a little slated because I don't get my own spot and I can't utilize the amenities. That feels like it's a part of my living area. So I guess I'm just like, I'm trying to understand this, and I guess maybe because I'm like too far away from a senior living that I don't know. I don't want to come across like I'm opposed to it, but I'm also all for like growing Cicero. And
Actually, it
thinking
comes quick.
I understand that, but I'm just kind of like, if I'm the person living in the apartment, I'm kind of like,
If
a
you're
little
30, if you're
jaded.
35, you don't want to go over to this 55 plus clubhouse. and
Yeah.
have- The
get it.
downstairs center core of the mixed use buildings is going to be amenity space for the multifamily
okay,
residents. They're not gonna have a pool, but they're gonna have a game room, they're gonna have a media room, they're gonna have there'll either be a fitness center. Both clubhouses will have their own fitness centers, or there will be a gym operator that we're buying memberships for people for.
okay.
So
6,000 feet in each building, so it's actually 12,000 square feet. It's a bigger amenity space than the seniors have, right?
but it's not gonna all be amenity space, but that's all gonna be service space for the multifamily. We're gonna be doing storage in there. So that if you've got an apartment upstairs and you want a place to store your Christmas stuff, you can rent a storage locker downstairs. There'll be those types of amenities in there as well.
Thank you.
The one amenity we aren't gonna be able to provide is garages for them, but that's just the nature of the beast.
Anything else? Appreciate your time.
Okay.
Thank you much.
We hope to see you very soon.
Understood. With that, that concludes our agenda items. Is there any discussion topics anybody would like to chat from the team? If not, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Do we have a second? Meeting is adjourned.